The scholarly point number 17 is that the Arab people took great pride in their memory. They memorized things orally and were skilled at it. They could memorize lengthy poetic verses without any problem and felt proud of their ability to do so. Now, in this scenario, when this book was revealed, it is mentioned in Sahih Bukhari that Ibn Mas'ud said, I memorized these verses by listening to the Prophet Muhammad himself. He would recite them during prayer, and I would listen and memorize them during the tahajjud prayer. You can still see their strong memorization skills. Many children at the age of 8 or 9 can memorize the entire Quran without any difficulty. However, things have changed a bit now. Our priorities have shifted, and as a result, we have moved towards relying more on written materials rather than focusing on oral memorization. This has created a bit of a problem. Now, since they were proud of their memorization skills, there were hundreds of memorizers of the Quran among the companions of the Prophet. However, it is mentioned in Sahih Bukhari that when the battle of Yamama took place against Musaylima the liar, many memorizers were martyred. Then, Umar ibn al-Khattab suggested that we should compile the scattered forms of the Quran, which were written on bones, leather and wood, into one book. Abu Bakr, being a follower of the Sunnah, initially responded that he would not do what Prophet Muhammad had not done himself. Umar continued to argue with him about the necessity of this task, until Abu Bakr said that Allah had then inspired him to consult Zayd ibn Sabit, who was a very intelligent person and had written down the Quran. Zayd was also reluctant at first, but after discussing it with the companions, he agreed. In Bukhari, he mentioned that if Abu Bakr assigned him the duty of moving a mountain from here to there, that would be an easy task compared to the responsibility of preserving the Quran, which was a significant duty for the entire Ummah. The people of the morning remembered that the oral recitation of the Quran was done thoroughly, and it was noted that there were no mistakes in it. This did not match any written copies. There were no memorizers of the Quran, but Abu Bakr wanted to ensure that the notes taken by Prophet Muhammad were verified against it. It was agreed that there should be a written record of whatever was written down, and at least 2 individuals would justify it in writing. However, there was one verse for which the written record was only with one person, as mentioned in Sahih Bukhari. That person was Hazrat Khuzaimah ibn Sabit Ansari, may Allah be pleased with him, and it was not found with anyone else. The companions of the Prophet were aware of this because the words indicate that if something is lost, only the person who remembers it would know. I have heard it, but it is not found in writing. When it was not remembered, the companions had this understanding that this verse was found in written form with Hazrat Khuzaimah, and there was no other witness. Then the companions remembered that the Prophet Muhammad had declared him a witness for 2 people, and this issue became apparent after his passing. These prophecies and signs of prophethood are well known. There is a famous incident where Prophet Muhammad made a deal with a Jewish man for an animal. When he went home to collect the money, someone offered a higher price from behind, and the man backed out. When the Prophet returned, the man claimed that no deal had been made. The Prophet replied, "You may not give me the money, but do not call me a liar." The man insisted that no deal had been made and challenged him to bring witnesses. There were no witnesses present, but Al-Zuhair ibn Khuzaimah happened to pass by and said, "I testify that a deal was made." The matter was resolved. After the man left, the Prophet asked Al-Zuhair why he had testified. Al-Zuhair replied, "O Messenger of Allah, I have given such significant testimonies at your request. So this is just a small testimony. I have accepted your character," meaning the entire foundation of our religion, Islam, is built upon you, O Messenger of Allah. We accepted this Quran as the book of Allah based on your word. The punishment of the grave, matters of the hereafter, and paradise, these significant concepts were not trivial. The Prophet Muhammad had stated that in every matter, 2 witnesses are required. If my kazima, a reference to a specific case, comes forward, then consider its testimony equal to that of 2 witnesses. This was evident during the time of Abu Bakr and Umar ibn al-Khattab, as recorded in Sahih Bukhari. Allah, the Almighty, granted the Prophet Muhammad a living testimony. And based on their testimony, verses of the Quran were revealed, such as, "Indeed, a messenger has come to you from among yourselves." In another narration, there is mention of a different verse. Written records were maintained, and then a compilation was prepared. This compilation remained with Umar ibn al-Khattab throughout his life. After his death, it was given to the mother of the believers, Sayyida Hafsa. And this was the compilation that Umar had ordered to be written. This concludes the narration in Sahih Bukhari. The next point, point 18, is that the recitation of the Quran was established in the dialect of the Quraysh by Uthman ibn Affan. May Allah be pleased with him. And all other dialects, even those in written form, were burned. In order to prevent differences within the community, there is a hadith in Sahih Bukhari where Abu Zayd ibn Juman states that during the time of Uthman, when we were preparing to attack Azerbaijan, which means heading towards Russia, we noticed that the Roman and Persian empires, which had come under Muslim control after Qadisiyah and Yarmouk, were rallying people for jihad. When we arrived there, we saw that people were reading the Quran in different dialects, as they were all non-Arab Muslims. It was similar to how our people today read Aib Aib. Then, as the words of Sahih Bukhari mention, Abu Zayd ibn Ayman came and said that the believers should protect the community from destruction, as differences would arise in this manner. Hazrat Uthman ibn Affan, may Allah be pleased with him, stated that he had the Quran written down. He mentioned that it was written by Zayd ibn Thabit, who was instructed to compile it. He said that the copies were to be taken from the one held by Mu'minin Hafsa, may Allah be pleased with her, and wherever there was a disagreement, the Quraysh dialect should be used as the standard. He had several copies written, and this refers to the latter part of Hazrat Uthman's era. I mentioned 25 years because the Uthmanic manuscript was finalized during that time, which is why we call it the Uthmanic manuscript. Not because Hazrat Uthman wrote it himself, but because he had it written in the Quraysh dialect. The achievement of Hazrat Uthman, may Allah be pleased with him, is so significant that there is no disagreement about it. Even if you refer to Shia interpretations, they have written in their authentic traditions that Hazrat Ali said that if he were in Hazrat Uthman's place, he would have done the same for the benefit of the Ummah. The copies of Hazrat Uthman that I mentioned earlier are preserved in a museum, and they even have drops of his blood on them. The verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah is sufficient for you against them, highlight that the Uthmanic manuscript is significant. And it can also be said that this is a misconception regarding Zayd ibn Thabit, who is referred to as the one who compiled the Quran. This is incorrect. He did not compile the Quran. The Quran was written down during the blessed life of Prophet Muhammad, and Zayd ibn Thabit compiled it. Between two covers, he resolved the disputes among the Quraysh regarding the Quran and established the Quran in one place. This is the complete history of it. Now, point number 19 is that, my brothers, the Mushaf of Uthman that we have is agreed upon by both Sunnis and Shias. There is a lot of propaganda in debates that Shias do not accept this Quran, and you may be surprised that Shias also criticize Sunnis, claiming that Sunnis distort the Quran. You can check my YouTube video titled Are Shias Kafirs, where I have explained all these matters. Practically, this is the same Quran that the entire world possesses today. From the east to the west, from the north to the south, whether it is the Muslims of Indonesia, the Muslims of Africa, the Muslims of Russia, the Muslims of America, or those from the subcontinent, they all start reading the Quran. They may read half a verse and then stop. The next verse will be read. At this time, there are millions of memorizers of the Quran in the world. There is no other opinion in the Quran that any verse is misplaced, or that the words of a verse are read incorrectly. This Mushaf Uthmani that I have in my hand, which you see in blue binding, has been published by the King Fahd printing press in Saudi Arabia. The scribe has beautifully written this manuscript in a style that we, the people of the subcontinent, can read. It uses the Muhammad bold font, which is quite similar to the Al-Maus font. The Arab people use a different trade Arabic font, which is easily readable for them. The blue binding has been printed by the Saudis for the people of the subcontinent and others, while the green binding, which is in green color, contains Arabic text written in a different style for the Arab people. The flat script is of the Rayan type in the blue binding. The scribe, whose name is Uthman Taha from Damascus, has written it in such a remarkable way that Every page ends with a verse. It is truly a great achievement that this Quran, which I have in my possession, has around 600 plus pages, and each page ends with a verse. He has not broken or distorted the words. He has written them in such an excellent manner by hand, which is a significant accomplishment. Allah has granted him such acceptance that this Quran is being printed around the world today. The Quran written by Usman Taha is also the same manuscript that the people of Iran have. The same Quran is printed in Iran, which has come from Saudi Arabia, but the binding is red and the blue is different. The people of Iran have changed its color. The Quran is one and the same. Now you have been taught that the Shia believe in 40 parts of the Quran. Have you ever gone to a Shia place of worship and checked the Quran yourself? Propaganda runs rampant when you spread such false propaganda. The damage it causes is that those who oppose become even more confident in their belief that those who are making such false accusations against us are indeed ignorant, so their other claims must also be wrong. You may have heard another big lie, that there are no memorizers of the Quran among the Shia. It is also widely known about the Ismailis, that there are families among the Ismailis where every child is a memorizer of the Quran. A brother emailed me and started to tell me that he was Ismail. After listening to my lecture, he came out of sectarianism and informed me that there is no one in our family who is a memorizer of the Quran. However, it is not just about memorization. He mentioned that the Punjabi translation does not align with the beliefs of the Quran. It is commonly said here that a Shia cannot be a memorizer. And that is because Shia schools for memorization have started to emerge here. In our entire subcontinent, there is not a trend for memorization, as there were more Sunni schools here, meaning Barelvi, Deobandi, and Ahle Hadith, all of which had a complete system for teaching memorization. So, it was evident that they would come out as memorizers. But if you go to Iran, there are thousands of memorization schools, and you will find many memorizers there. Here, they have also started to establish some. So, you will find memorizers. We have those brothers who come from the University of Qum, and they are Hafiz as well. And mashallah, their pronunciation is excellent. So this means that a false propagandist cannot be a Hafiz because they do not believe in the Quran. Therefore, there is no Hafiz among them. The story goes on that there are 30 parts, and they say a goat ate it. Allah, this goat eating hadith is in Sunan ibn Majah, which they present as evidence. It is written in your book that a goat ate it, and the hadith is also correct. So what happened with the goat eating? Here you can see many times that copies of the Holy Quran are disposed of in rivers. The Quran does not depend on the written mushaf. Even if all mushafs in the world are destroyed, the Quran will not be finished. This is why it is mentioned in Bukhari that Allah will not take knowledge away from the hearts of people, but will take it away by causing the death of scholars. Until all Hafiz are gone, the Quran cannot be finished from this world. It is written there that even if all records are destroyed, Allah has taken extraordinary care of it. That is why I am telling you that the companies that write mushafs are Taj Company, Ziaul Quran Publication, or Qudratullah Company, but they certify that this is correctly written. The certification of the Quran matches the copy of Uthman, which has been passed down through generations with practical continuity and consensus. And this is such a strong system that even the Imam of Kaaba, when a major scholar makes a mistake, it is often kept hidden out of respect. No one can read the Quran aloud now. They are in a difficult situation because people keep their smartphones in airplane mode. Previously, the Hafiz would jump long distances during Taraweeh prayers, and they would jump on the portions they had memorized. Now they can't jump at all. So the quality of Hafiz is also being scrutinized. Only the true Hafiz can lead the prayers. Those with incomplete memorization cannot lead, as they will be caught. They can't jump anymore. Well, no one can fight against so many people. A Hafiz could point out mistakes in front of one person, but now there are so many people standing that they won't let it go. They will ask, "What are you reading?" Therefore, now you see that true Hafiz read the Quran well. People are also more aware. They want to listen to the Quran. not just any random recitation. So people go to mosques where the Quran is read peacefully and they enjoy the Quran. This is the blessing of smartphones in this regard. Now fear the day when scholars may issue a fatwa stating that reading and listening to the Quran on a smartphone is permissible just to relieve themselves. Yes, one person asked me if we can read the Quran on a mobile. He said, yes, you can read the Quran, but you will also receive the reward for it. I told him that the companions used to read the Quran by heart and receive rewards for it. So if we are reading from a mobile instead of a physical copy, we are doing double the work. We are both reading and looking at it. However, we may not receive as much reward because they only read from memory, except for those who had a physical copy and were not memorizers. This whole propaganda about memorizers is that they cannot be true scholars. There is a scholarly point that the Quran is established with the Quranic recitation. Although we are following one recitation, which is the one preserved by Imam Hafs, who is among the students of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, this recitation is established in the world. The Imam of Kaaba recites in this same recitation, and major recitation competitions are held in it. However, the other 6 recitations were established by Allah, as mentioned in Bukhari and Muslim hadith. The Prophet of Islam stated that Allah has made it easy for the Ummah with 7 recitations. However, the recitation that exists is only known to those who have completed the course in the specific manner prescribed by the Quran. In some places it is also recited, such as in Sudan or Palestine. The recitations of the Quran are established. And it is mentioned about Ibn Mas'ud in Bukhari and Muslim that he did not consider the last 2 chapters, the Mu'awwidatayn, to be part of the Quran. However, some people say that these narrations are fabricated, but in my view, the narrations are correct. In fact, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud regarded them as prayers, and later he reverted, because the recitation of the Imam that has reached us, which is the recitation of Imam Asim, is based on Ibn Mas'ud's recitation. In this, the 2 Mu'awwidat are present. Muslims around the world write and recite them, and they memorize the Quran in this way. Similarly, we say that the consensus of the companions is a proof. An individual companion's opinion may be incorrect, but the hand of Allah is upon the consensus. In the Muslim region, there is hadith number 399 in the Book of Knowledge chapter, which states that Allah will never allow my ummah to unite upon misguidance. The hand of Allah is upon the congregation. Whatever the entire ummah agrees upon will be such that it represents the consensus of the ummah. There is the hand of Allah upon this. Individually, a person's opinion can be wrong, but the consensus of the ummah protects it. So the issue of recitation together is a significant critical issue. I have presented hadiths from Bukhari and Muslim regarding this. You can search for the issue of recitation together on YouTube. I have recorded a video on the differences in recitation. Some non-Muslims also raise objections about recitation together, claiming that your assertion is that there is no version of the Quran. The Quran is one across the world. Then where did the differences in recitation come from? Now they come and show it in written form, saying, look, in your Quran, this word is written like this, and in that one, it is written like that. However, the old scholars and all Sunnis accept the readings, except for a few modern scholars. But it cannot be denied that these are the accepted readings, and they do not cause any difference in beliefs or ideologies, nor should they be made a spectacle. If someone denies these 6 readings, we will not declare them as disbelievers. The Ummah is bound only to this one Quran that is in the hands of Muslims from the east to the west, and from the north to the south. This is the Quran that is being printed, which I mentioned, and the writer is Usman Taha from Damascus. This writing is also published in Saudi Arabia. The same writing is printed by the Iranians in red-colored binding. If you go, you will find it. Only 20 points have been covered so far. 10 last time and 10 this time. There are many other important topics related to the Quran that I hope will be covered in the next 2 lectures. Inshallah. I pray to Allah that the truth I have spoken may be instilled in our hearts. If any emotional words have slipped from my mouth, may Allah forgive them from our hearts and grant us forgiveness. O Allah, grant us the ability to act upon the teachings of the Book of Sunnah and to convey them to our fellow brothers. O Allah, send blessings upon Muhammad and the family of Muhammad, as you sent blessings upon Abraham and the family of Abraham. Indeed, you are praiseworthy and majestic. O Allah, bless Muhammad and the family of Muhammad, as you blessed Abraham and the family of Abraham. Indeed, you are praiseworthy and majestic. Glory be to you, O Allah, and praise be to you. I bear witness that there is no deity but you. I seek your forgiveness and turn to you in repentance. And our duty is only to convey the clear message. May Allah reward you with goodness.